Hello and welcome to another video. This is a video sharing, this is going to be on my Blogloving website where I write blogs about blog writing and writing books, and I want to talk more about writing fiction. So when it comes to writing fiction, you can be as imaginative, if I could get the word out, as much as you want, and it's basically taking people into a world that is, based on, for example, The Secret Seven was based on 7 kids who were from an orphanage originally, and they did many adventures, and so that's a kind of example. You can be as imaginative as you want, but it all depends on what the book's about. I'm writing many books at a minute. One of them is almost finished, but I'm waiting to, because I've done it into 3 different parts, and now it's just get to the end of the 3rd part to then make it into a whole book. Now, if you do fiction, the one thing that I would always do is always have. So I work with one notebook. That's where I write down my tasks for the day, what needs to get done today. But I also use notebooks like this one, where I will character reference. And for one of my books called Mum and Me, first of all, I've written down all the characters that are in the story and what they're how they related in the book and the story. So how who they related to. So for example, my book called Mum and Me is based on a mother and a daughter who live together, and they have kind of like a mixed kind of relationship where they get on each other's nerves, but there's a woman in it called Gloria who is very much about nip and tuck, like having cosmetic surgery, and she does everything because it's trendy, and she loves designer clothes, and she's basically, the kind of like a typical footballer's wife type image, and I've just written down like all the characters in the book, and then on the next pages I've sort of written a more detailed description of the character. So Izzy Taylor is Elizabeth's friend, and they've known each other since school. They've been brought up in the same neighbourhood, and they're very close friends, almost like they're, could be sisters. So, and that's her relationship to the story, and I've done it with others who may come into it, but and then I've done like that. This is where I've sort of written down the story. So Gloria is that's all about what her what she's actually like, and what's actually how I'm going to bring them into the story. And she's basically Elizabeth's enemy number 1, and she thinks that because she's head of the PTFA at Elizabeth's son's school, that everything that she wants to bring into the PTFA, everybody has to be on board with her, and no one else is allowed to really give an input, because if she doesn't like it, she would exclude it. So and that's when you write fiction, is to really get to understand about the characters that you're bringing into the book. So from how they dress, how they walk, how they talk, how they are, it's a little bit Elizabeth based on me in a way, but not so much. When it comes to a character, you can bring your own kind of personality into a character, but you also need to give a kind of like a different identity of that character for it to evolve, rather than it being based all about, you know, me. Elizabeth is kind of like me, where she dresses how she wishes to dress, but she's not very. She's totally opposite to Gloria. Gloria is all about glamour and having the current fashion and thing in her life, and Elizabeth is not like that at all. She is someone who is very boyish around the way she dresses. She loves to bake, and she loves to cook, and she loves being single, basically, and being a single mum. And it's based about her relationship with her mum, how they go against each other a lot, but when it comes to Gloria, they actually become alliances with each other, which can often be the case. So the one thing I would say is to really spend some time to get to know each character, because if they are the main character in the book, then it's good to do a character reference where me as the writer, I know that character off by heart, and I can see her, you know, as I write the book. And that's one thing tip I would give when it comes to writing fiction, is really get to know the main characters that you put in the book. You can add characters as you go in the book, but still write them down. Have like a list of the different characters, so you don't get lost in the book, or forget about, you know, the original name of a character, and then you've changed their name, you know, halfway through the book, not remembering what their original name was. So and it's about her neighbourhood as well, people that she gets on with in her neighbourhood. And Gloria is like everybody's enemy, unless you go to a beauty parlour and you agree with everything she believes in. So that's one thing, and that's a fair thing. Let's talk about fiction. The second thing when it comes to writing fiction is to take your time when writing it, but don't spend so much time in editing the book. And I would always say, if I'm not really, the thing I loathe out of writing is editing. I find it very tedious, but I do it as I go. But I also have someone who goes through it for me, and so I am delegating the editing side of writing the book to my manager, who's working with me, and you know, I'm keeping them quite who they are to respect them, but they are working with me. We're working on this book, and it's nice to have somebody else do the bits that you don't want to do, that I find hard to do, you know. Because I enjoy writing the book. When it comes to editing, I find it really kind of it's like a chore, you know, and that's why I don't enjoy the book. So, and you've got to enjoy the books that you write. If you find that you're getting bored with the story, then so will your readers. So keep your writing fresh with each part of the book. So go with the story yourself. That's how I write the book. I surprise myself with what's going to happen next, and that is good, because it keeps me interested in writing the book, and that will keep my people who want to read my book to keep reading it and see what's going to happen next. So that's my next tip. The other important thing is spend some time if you need to write notes on the side, it's good, that's why I write these. But if you need to kind of like get inspiration to keep writing, then to do research, not necessarily about the book, but to keep your momentum in writing. Because if you're writing a 60-page book, which is, you know, hardcore, and that's a big book, And you can sometimes start to fall off the wagon in wanting to continue writing the book. So give yourself time to listen and watch other writers, because they will have tips, especially if you're new at writing. And then I find watching videos of other people that have written books to be how I stay on track with my own books. And so that's another tip I would say is, listen to other writers for their tips and ideas. And do a creative writing course. I did one at the Richmond Adult Community College, and it was really helpful, because she said about, what you need to do first is to write the book, write the story, write and create scenarios. So ask questions in the book, like, okay, so Elizabeth, what type of food does she eat? Well, she is someone who likes to cook, but she also loves to take away. She likes to. She's not really into shopping online, because every time she does, or my mum does, she orders something wrong, like I've done in the past. Her mum is very much into buying online. It's a newfound love, but she always ends up ordering what she wasn't expecting to receive, because she's not checked what the actual item is. She's just seen that there's a bargain on a product, and not really seeing what it really is. And then when she's received it, it's completely different to what she originally wanted to order. So and because I've done that in the past, and because my nan loved QVC and online shopping, I've brought that into it, because it's kind of showing how people that have come from an older generation, how they've embraced the online community and the online shopping community, where they just get addicted to buying, having this, being like a kid in a toy shop, having so many things that she doesn't have to go to a shop for. She buy online, but not really seeing what the actual item is until it's been delivered. So get to know really about get to grips with characters and the story. Go through questions and scenarios of and this is basically to map out how I would like the story to go, but I don't follow it to the T. This is just to sit it in my head of where I would like the book to go, where I like the characters to go, who would I like to bring in that may potentially become more into the story. So really get to know your book, really get to know your characters, really get to know how they would talk. Like Elizabeth is very sarcastic sometimes, and her mum is all about, she used to be a school teacher, so sometimes she will still have her teacher's hat on and go into teacher's mode. And it's bringing the story out. So doing a creative writing course is really has really helpful, because it's very different from doing an English course. Now I thought at one point that I would have to redo my English in order to write an adult type book, because as a kid I wrote kids books, not adult books, well, kids stories, but not adult stories. And it is a different genre, because when you do a children's book, it can be as sparkly and a fantasy world of, like J.K. Rowling wizards and, pictures that move in a newspaper. Where when you write an adult book, it has to be something that the adult readers can relate to. So that's why I've written Mum and Me, because it's kind of like a a modern take on a mother and a daughter relationship. And that's, you know, one thing that I would say is if you could do a creative writing course, then do it, because when I done it, I found it very, very helpful, and it really helped me in, you know, establish my writing. There has been many books that I've written, or stories I've written, but I haven't actually got them published. But you can still go back to those stories. So I would, you know, do practice stories, you know, and that's, I see it that was my practice story. And now I'm actually, and then my first ever book or story that I wrote as an adult was a parenting book. And it wasn't like really giving, it wasn't like a parenting book where I shared tips and advice. It was more sharing my story and experience of becoming a mum for the first time. So it was more like a diary type book. But my first novel I actually wrote that got published was called A Lonely Walk to Happiness, which is under my name, Carrie Challoner. And it's available on Amazon if you want to check it out. And that is about a young girl who has a really bad eating disorder, and it shows basically how, because when it came to eating disorders, it was often labelled that you're bulimic or you're anorexic, but actually they can be both. They can be an eating disorder, especially somebody who has either phobia over food or has a bad relationship with food. And it's talking about how the girl that I've used in that story called Claire, how it starts to evolve, how it really affects her socially, because she just wants to shut herself away. She doesn't want, you know, to be seen or heard, and she basically hides away because she feels stuck in this bubble of self-loathe, that's the size of bread, is it? Loathe, and she then wants to move and go to university, and hoping that by doing that things are going to change for her. And it's talking about depression as well, and I really wanted to write that book, and what inspired me, and this is the other thing, if you need a bit of inspiration, if you've done a creative writing course, if you've done like a character reference, got a gist of the story, then the next thing you want to do is do a bit of research where on basically how you're going to turn the story around. So, you know, how is it going to then move on without changing it too much. We want the writer to flow off the page, and what some people do, they use like file cards, and that's the one we do. A lot of people use what's it called? What's it called? Well, basically put the sticky notes on a white board, and that's one way of doing it. And also doing some researching of I forgot what I was going to say now. I forgot what I was going to say. So I forgot what I was going to say, but basically, so once you've done your creative writing course, you've got an idea of the book, spend some time just researching, or, you know, I got the idea, that was it. I got the idea to write the Lonely Walk of Happiness, and to get sometimes the ideas will come out of the blue, and it was when I was watching a program called Waterloo Road, where a young girl was being bullied, cyberbullied. That I got the idea of writing Alone in Walk to Happiness. Now, it was going to be called a different title, but as I went through, I really thought what I wanted to be called, and I changed it. So spend some time, if you can't think of ideas, watch YouTube, watch a film. The song that Mariah Carey wrote, Hero, was from a film she watched. So, and that's where you can get good ideas from, is watching TV, watching a film, listening to even a song, and just spend some time just, watching videos about writing books or reading books yourself, to get an idea of, if you get stuck with ideas or where you want the book to go, because we all get writer's block. That is normal, but it will come back as you go. And always, as I've said in I've put in my blogs about writing, is always make sure you've got a notebook on you, and have days where you spend the whole time focusing on the book, but have breaks from it as well, because if you do get writer's block, it's your mind telling you that you've written enough, you need to stop and then do other things and then come back to it. And that is the best way of writing fiction, and they are more tips to help you. So I hope this video is helpful, and this will be on my Blogloving site. So I'll see you then. Take care. Bye bye.